Well, what's going on, top producer? Alexander Fazalani here, and today we're going over 4 tips that are going to help you network like a boss. But before we do that, I'm going to need your robot over to that like button, hit it, then do a moonwalk, pass that subscribe button, and then prep yourself because you're about to do a backflip to kick that little thing that looks like a bell so you can continuously stay up to date with all the content we're putting out, and we can keep putting out this content for free 99. And as always, this is brought to you by Design for Agents, an e-commerce geared to making sure you have what you need to succeed in the real estate business, whether it be rocking cool apparel, marketing yourself, branding yourself. There's like 30 plus hours of free content there, so go check that out in the description below in that link. Now that that's out the way, let's dive right into that networking advice. When I first got into real estate, there was nothing that gave me more heebie-jeebies than the term networking event. I don't know if it was my inability to speak to strangers or it was my insecurities of my lack of knowledge, but I avoided these things like the plague. And then one day I was speaking to my mentor and he told me about how he went to this networking event where he met a developer, and that developer ended up giving him 60 unit listing. After that, I was sold. I was like, I have to learn exactly what these people are doing in order to gain all this business and build up their CRMs. So I took some time to actually develop these skills. I've read a couple of books and I was able to actually turn it all around, get outside of my comfort zone. Because before, I would have to have 3 or 4 drinks in order to even feel comfortable to go out there and speak to people. And now I go to events and you can ask my wife, Amanda, you can't shut me up. And I'm usually, they call me Philo because I'm the first one in and I'm the last one out. And that mindset has helped me get many, many listings and earn thousands and thousands of dollars worth of commissions in my career. And they're not really that hard to do. And I'm gonna share them with you in this video. So let's dive into tip number 1, which is learning how to properly introduce yourself. So when you walk into a networking event, there's usually 2 things that happen. You either find the people that you know that you're meeting there, or you're going there by yourself and you're like, what do I do with my hands, right? So what we're gonna do first is identify who's in the room and identify who the wallflowers are. So the people that went to a networking event obviously are going there to meet people, right? And there's always gonna be a couple of people that are on the outskirts of the room, and all the major networkers are usually in the middle, right? So how I work is I go around the outside and I work my way into the middle. So first thing you want to do is identify people that are by themselves or small groups that you can kind of introduce yourself to. But the first thing I always do is go get a drink, right? Because I need something to loosen me up a little bit. But if I'm not in the mood to drinking alcohol, you grab a water or grab a soda and then work your way to the outside of the room. So when you first meet a person, the first thing you're going to want to do is basically say your name and ask them their name. It's as simple as that. So hey, how are you? Pleasure to meet you. My name is Alexander Fazalani. What's your name? So from here, the conversation is going to go into two ways, right? It's either A, going to go into an awkward pause where you're going to have to fill the silence with a stock question, which is what we're going to talk about a little later in this video, or they're going to ask you, so what is it that you do, right? A lot of people ask that question first. It's like a go-to question, which is kind of boring, but at the same time, you're going to answer it like a pro. So I actually developed this little tactic from Tony Robbins. I went to Business Mastery and it was something that really stuck in my mind. It's like an elevator pitch every time you go to a networking event that really makes you memorable in anyone's eyes. It's the concept of what I do and what I really do. So what I do is something that's usually boring and what everybody's going to hear. So like, I'm a realtor and I sell houses. That would be like what I do. But what I really do is something that's a little more deeper and a little more intriguing. For me, my example is what I do is I'm a real estate entrepreneur. But what I really do is I coach 40 plus real estate agents around the United States that actually close over $100+ million worth of real estate a year. And I also design and develop products to help my whole real estate community reach a higher level of production. So do you see what happened there? So I could have just said, hey, yeah, I'm a realtor and I have a team of 40 plus agents and I own e-commerce, or I can intrigue the person that I'm speaking to, have them feel the enthusiasm for the business that I run. So let's dive into tip number 2, which is developing our stock questions. So usually I like to have 5 to 10 stock questions that I have in my brain already in case the conversation starts slowing down, that are usually open-ended. They're not yes or no questions, but they're questions that inspire deeper conversation. So I'm gonna give you about 5 that I utilize, but obviously you're gonna wanna come up with your own and the way that you say and the way that you speak, so it doesn't sound like this is rehearsed. So the first question I ask is, what brought you to this event? right? So usually they're like, oh, I wanted to meet new people. I wanted to connect with other local professionals. I wanted to connect with other realtors. I wanted to connect with potential clients. Whatever their goal was, it's going to allow them to speak. Or they're like, I was here to meet with somebody, so on and so forth. This is an open-ended question that allows them to kind of break the ice, and it isn't a deep question, but it's like a shallow question that gets people speaking. The second question I like to ask is, how's your business been this year, right? Or how did your business go last year? Right? So this is going to get them really speaking about what's going on in their market, how their business is doing, what is it that they actually do, and so on and so forth. This is a little more of a deeper question that's going to get people speaking a little more. Which leads us to the question number 3, which is, do you know anybody at this event? Right? So usually they're going to say, no, I'm just here by myself. I just wanted to meet new people. Like, oh, cool, that's really awesome. Right? Or is I am here because the guest speaker is one of my friends, or I'm here because I was invited by one of the guest speakers or one of the keynote speakers or whatever it may be. And then it allows you to dive deeper in who else is in the room, and maybe they can introduce you to them as well. Then for question 4 and 5, we're going to dive a little more deeper into what their goals are. So the next question is, so what's your goals for next year? If we're like in the middle of the year, I'm like, so what's your goals for the remainder of the year in regards to your business? Right? And get them to speak, allow them to share their motivations with you, right? And then once they kind of go into their motivations, I make the conversation a little lighter. So I say, when you're not doing A, B, C in your job, what do you like to do for fun? Right? And now we're diving into being more friendly, because at the end of the day, nobody cares about how much business you talk. They all care about what really connects you, which is things that you do in your everyday life, local hobbies. And this is where you're going to find things to build rapport on that are really going to help you build this relationship and allow you to further this relationship in the future. Before we dive into tip number 3, I hope you were actively paying attention. I know there's so much that's going out there. You're trying to memorize questions, and you're focusing on all these like tactical things. But what I want you to do is I want you to let conversation flow. Right? Have these stock questions in the back of your mind. I don't want you to rehearse these too much. I want you to kind of let things flow. The reason why is because I want you to actually pay attention to what the other person is saying, because building rapport requires that you actually care about what the other person cares about. So you want to know what they really do for a living. You want to know what they like and what they dislike, right? Because this is what's going to help you in tip number 3, which is learning how to edify and introduce people. Right? So now that we're on the outside of the room, we've got to know a couple of people on the outside of the room. It's time to work your way into the middle where all the big dogs are, or into bigger groups, right? So how you're going to do that? By becoming a master edifier. So for example, what I'll do is me and that other person will go into the middle of the room, and I'll introduce them to the group. Like, hey, this is Ed. He's a really cool guy. He's actually a real estate agent, but on his pastime, he's actually loving of the crypto world. He's into the metaverse and all this cool stuff, and he's actually a really great husband. So what you want to do is you want to say what they do, so what they do for a living, right? Like what everybody is interested in doing. What you're also going to do is throw in a couple of personal things that are going to make them more likable in their eyes, and it's also going to give that person that you brought into the circle a feeling of being significant, and that you actually cared and paid attention to what is it that they had to say, which is going to deepen your relationship. Which is going to lead us to tip number 4, which is make sure you keep all these people's information in a CRM and have some type of follow-up strategy where you're going to stay and develop this relationship over time. So now that you've done that, guys, if you follow these 4 tips, I guarantee all your friends are going to be like, you're so good at networking events, even though it scares the shit out of you. So there you have it, guys. Those are the 4 tips that I can give you that are going to help you work the room. If you have any questions, you can always reach out to me on Instagram and Facebook, where I'm most active, and I'm happy to answer any of the questions you have in the DMs. And as always, this is brought to you by Design for Agents, an e-commerce geared to making sure you have what you need in order to succeed in your real estate business. So go check that out in the description below, and I will see you guys in the next video. Adios, muchachos. And don't worry, guys, I'm telling you, it gets easier and easier the more you network. So I'll see you guys later. Adios.